Hey everyone, Carl here with Literate Lessons, and today we're going to look at teams and things you should be expecting to see at San Diego Regionals this week. San Diego is going to be the first IRL event of the year, and I am super excited to see what cool and unique things come out of that. But we should also be aware that there are some pretty standard teams that you will probably need to be prepared to see and or play against in this event. Before we get started on all that though, make sure to do all that fun YouTube stuff for us. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out a ton. Sends the video out to all the new places and things like that. If you're interested in playing in your own event this weekend and not going to San Diego, we are hosting our first Little Root Rumble over on Limitless. Discord link is down below. You can go click on that, and then you can go and join the Limitless event through the Discord because you will need the join code in order to register for it. So the first team I want to talk about here is one of the more early meta-defining teams, which is the double Dragon Murkrow Goldango team. This team has kind of been all over the place here lately as people have adapted and kind of adjusted, but it's still a very strong team overall. Playing things like Garchomp and Goldango with Murkrow and Hydreigon means that you have a very flexible and very powerful team. And now they've started to add things like Mousehold and Annihilate to kind of supplement some of the damage output, maybe answer some more unique things that they need to deal with. One of the cool things about this Mousehold Annihilate combo is it kind of just gives you a build your own nuke with Rage Fist. Most of these Mouseholds are playing Beat Up or Bullet Seed or something multi-hit move that's not Population Bomb in order to activate Annihilate's Rage Fist a significant amount of times to where then after a single bulk up, you're just one-shotting everything. On top of that, you have the very scary Murkrow Goldango lead with Haze and Tailwind. You also have Hydreigon that's really, really strong. Assault Vest sets are kind of out of style nowadays. They're playing like a Scope Lens Focus Energy set with like Tailwind. I believe the set is Focus Energy, Draco Meteor, Tailwind, and like Heat Wave. And they're doing something like this. That's definitely something to keep an eye out for. But overall, this team is still very, very good, even though it's kind of fallen out of favor. Goldango's not that great now that everyone's Terra Fire. I have seen Goldangos go to like Terra Water or even Terra Flying like this one is to kind of avoid Garchomps. So definitely be on the lookout for these Merkit Rain double dragon comps. The second team I want to talk about is probably the other big popular team outside of Dondozo strategies, and that's the Armorouge Indeedee Trick Room teams. These teams offer a lot in terms of consistency in the way that they set up Trick Room. One of the big things is Indeedee getting access to Trick Room itself, which is, by all intents and purposes, I believe, legal for San Diego. This team here doesn't have that because we are also playing Hatterene as a second Trick Room setter, but be on the lookout for Indeedees with Trick Room. That will make things very, very hard to kind of try and stop a Trick Room from going up, because you have to play the guessing game as the person against it of, is the Armorouge going to set it up? Is the Indeedee going to set it up? And you kind of have to play this coin flip thing to try and get it right. In this set here, we are Terra Grass with Flash Fire. I have seen Weakness Policy. I have seen Weakness Policy with Weak Armor and like a U-turn Pokemon. There's a lot of things that Armorouge does. Armorouge also gets access to Wide Guard. So if that's something you're interested in, you could play Wide Guard over like maybe Dark Pulse on this set. But beyond that, these two are probably the hardest part of this team to interact with. Outside of that, it's standard Trick Room stuff. Hatterene's really, really good. Hariyama is amazing at being able to just blow things up while also still being around and taking a couple hits. We have Amoonguss on this team as kind of like a Dondozo slash status bot. We also have Pollen Puff here, so we can side Pollen Puff Armorouge to heal up, which is really, really good. And then we probably have one of the best Terra Pokemon in the game, Torkoal. Terra Fire Eruptions Oko's a lot of things, whether it's a neutral hit and sometimes even if it's a resisted hit, because you have Drought on top of Charcoal, on top of usually max special attack, quiet nature. So you can deal a whole lot of damage with this thing for very little investment. And sometimes you don't even need to terrestrialize. Sometimes just Eruption in the Sun is enough. I would expect this to be the premier version of Trick Room. Usually Indeedee, Armorouge, and Torkoal all kind of go together. The last three pieces are kind of flexible on what you see based on per team. Flipping from the Sun Trick Room team, we're going to go to Rain. This is a fairly new archetype. It's something that hasn't been popular for too terribly long, but we're starting to see the rise of water types as more steel types get into the format, as more people go Terra Fire. This is kind of the next logical step, is we'll start to see more water types. And Pelipper Palafin makes a very strong duo. One of the cool things about Palafin is that it access to flip turn, and with its ability 0 to hero, getting damage off and then switching out, getting away from any incoming damage, and then coming back and being able to just hit people for a ton when you come back in hero form is really, really strong. You also get access to priority Jet Punch, which means that your Palafin hero is almost always going to get damage off, depending on the situations. You also get really good coverage in close combat and Ice Punch, so this Pelipper Palafin combo is very, very strong. To pair with that, they also have the Goldengo plus Tailwind. In this situation, Pelipper is our Murkrow, but we're also a Choice Scarf Terra Steel Goldengo, so our Make It Rain's a little bit stronger. If you really want to like get cute, you could go maybe Terra Fairy, which is something I've seen Goldengo do on these Rain teams, just so you can get really powerful Dazzling Gleams. Because a lot of what these teams have a hard time dealing with is like the dragons, Garchomp, Dragonite, and things like that. And so having something extra to supplement Sylveon's damage output would be a good thing. Speaking of Sylveon, Sylveon's a very powerful fairy type in this format, probably the strongest fairy type in Scarlet and Violet in general, mainly due to the fact that you get to do Stab Fairy Terra Blast because of the way Pixelate works with the move. And then you could also just Terra Fire, and then you get Stab Fire type Terra Blast for all the problematic steel Pokemon that Sylveon would run into. Another cool thing Sylveon's doing right now is Terra Water. This kind of works the same way, except now you're answering the Terra Fire types and not the Terra Steel types. And so that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on in San Diego, is do people next step it and go Terra Water? Do you start seeing like Terra Grass Hydreigon? It'll be interesting to kind of look and see what people do with the whole rock, paper, scissors of Terra types that's happening right now. The fourth team I want to talk about is another weather team. This is Sand Dondozo. This uses Lycanroc and Tyranitar alongside Tatsugiri, Dondozo, and Sylveon, and then usually some kind of check for like opposing water types, opposing Dondozo, maybe Murkrow in answer to Murkrow. Palmont has become very, very popular on these Dondozo teams because having access to Revival Blessing gives you a second shot at doing Dondozo strategies. Because of the way the Dondozo Tatsugiri thing works, Tatsugiri will live after Dondozo faints. So then you bring out Palmont, you protect with your Tatsugiri, use your Revival Blessing because Palmont usually outspeeds everything on the field. And then you'll have your Dondozo healed back up for when they take out Palmont, you can then switch Dondozo back in, and then you get another shot at doing whatever Dondozo strategy you're doing, whether that's Terra Steel, Terra Flying, Rest, Sleep, Talk, whatever. The other half of this team is Tyranitar and Lycanroc. This is a very strong lead. It hits really, really hard. You have Terra Flying Tyranitar to kind of be an annoying Pokemon. Do note that when you do Terra Flying, you lose the benefit of Sand, and you will start taking Sand Chip, so that's something to keep an eye on. But the combination of these two can answer pretty much any strong lead, especially with this Focus Sash, Endeavor, Endure, Lycanroc set. Another big thing to remember is Tatsugiri does more than just activate Commander. This thing can clean up house if you don't respect it enough. This is a very bulky kind of like support set. I have seen like Scarf Icy Wind sets. This set's carrying Nasty Plot to kind of just set up and then maybe blast them with a good Draco Meteor. Definitely be on the lookout for Tatsugiri that are just a little bit more offensive leaning than most. The last team, and the one you'll probably see more examples of because that's kind of just how these games work, is what I call bulky good stuffs. This is playing things like King Gambit, Rotom, Volcarona, all the little like 10%, 8% usage Pokemon that you kind of see once in a while. Kind of just play on a team. This would be like the anti-meta team. They usually have good Pokemon, good offensive damage output. In this case, we have Meowscarada, King Gambit, and Baxcalibur. All three of these deal with different parts of the format that cause problems for people, and it lets you be very, very flexible in what leads you bring and how you deal with opponents. I expect teams like this to do very, very well in an open team sheet format, mainly due to the fact that you get to see what your opponent's strategy is, and you can kind of pick and choose what parts you need depending on what they have. For the case of like this team, you have an answer to Trick Room with Mimikyu. You also have multiple answers to Dondozo with Curse, and Flower Trick Meowscarada, and Terra Electric Thunderbolt Rotom Wash with Will-O-Wisp. There's a lot that you can do with this team to kind of answer certain problems. Another really powerful thing is Baxcalibur. This is a very good anti-meta Pokemon because you have a decent typing in Ice and Dragon right now. Being able to Terra away from Ice is one of the best parts of Baxcalibur because they make up for that having Ice typing by giving it better stats. And so now this Pokemon can lose all the downsides of being an Ice type while keeping the normally above average stats that they give it. I have seen people get tore up by a Dragon Dance Ice Shard or a Dragon Dance Icicle Spear Baxcalibur. And there'll be plenty of other things going on at San Diego. I expect Dondozo to do very, very well, mainly due to the fact that Dondozo is very flexible in how the team building around it works. You only really need the Tatsugiri to enable it, and then the other four Pokemon can be whatever you think you need to bring to answer the meta that is against Dondozo. Outside of all that, I want to hear from you. What do you expect to see at San Diego? Is there any teams that you're super excited to see on camera? Are you going to San Diego to go play? If so, let us know down below. Again, thank you all for watching this video. If you made it to the end, hit that like button. Helps us out a ton. And we will see you all on Monday for the podcast. Bye, everyone.